Greetings and welcome to A Sip of Inspiration. Every moment in your life is filled with all the opportunities that life has to offer. My name is Stephanie Wilson-Coleman. You see, life is a canvas, and you decide to color. Colors will you choose for your life today.
There was a message in his melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds.
Greetings and welcome to A Sip of Inspiration. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor, and I want to welcome you and thank you for listening to A Sip of Inspiration. Joining me are three of my favorite experts. Two have been here before, so they're kind of used to the flow of things, but tonight we're breaking in a new one. Hopefully we won't scare her away and come back, and she'll come back. Our topic is tapping into your greatness. I talk a lot about the fact that you color the canvas of your life. And tonight we're going to teach you how to tap into that greatness so that you can begin to live your dreams. Now, to introduce our panel, I'm going to start over here with Stanley Robinson. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the show.
I tell you, it's been really great having the opportunity to work with you. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Stanley, so I want you guys to pay attention. I didn't know, and we've done several things together before now, but I actually tapped on the website, and I did not know that you you have a JD degree and a DBA. He's like the resident smart person over here, right? He teaches business law, and I found out he went to John Marshall Law School also. He has a television show, not A Sip of Inspiration, The Ink Spot, and a radio show, The Ink Spot, where they actually review books, and he's done over 100 books. He's been doing this now for about 5 years. I think that is fantastic. Anybody who loves books as much as I do has got to be all right with me. So thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. And then there is the Andre M., attorney at law. Hi, how are you doing?
Stephanie, I'm better than good, and it's a pleasure to be back.
Thank you. We had a ball the last time. I'm cheating because I have your bio here. Excuse me. You went to the University of Iowa College of Law, where you were also the president of the Black Law Students Association. See, then we knew you were destined for great things.
You going way back.
I'm going way back. I'm going to bring you up a little bit. See, you formed the Chicago Dream Team, and he got his notoriety and his fame through the Ryan Harris case, where he was able to get a large sum of money awarded to the families of the two children who were wrongly accused. So he's very active in the community, and he's a lot of fun on the show, too. So thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, the new person that we're breaking in tonight, Nina Christmas, right?
Yes, that's it.
All right. Now, she has an interesting background. She has a cosmetology and a psychology degree.
Yes.
Now, one she did because she loved, which was the cosmetology license, and the other she did because her parents wanted her to go to school.
And make sure.
That's right. And she discovered that she can do her psychological counseling behind the chair. She actually lives in Atlanta now, and she's back home visiting. She's from here, but she is going to finally sit here with us and talk about living your dreams.
Wow, and thank you so much for allowing me to sit here along with such a great panel. Yeah, it's a plus. No complaints over here.
Yeah, they are wonderful, I tell you. Now, I've got a few notes, and I've got some internet questions also that we can go over. I want to invite the audience to pay attention to the number that's going to appear at the bottom of your screen. I also want you to have paper and pencil in hand so that you can write down anything that strikes you as we begin to talk. Not only are we going to talk about what I think are formulas, because any that you achieve in life, you need to know what your manifestation process is, because what works for me may not work for you. It's different for everybody. So when you discover how it works for you, I want you to write it down, and then that is the lesson that you repeat over and over and over again in your life. So the basic formula that we're going to deal with is one that says thoughts plus feelings plus action equals manifestation. What that means is what you spend the majority of your time thinking about, how you feel about what you think about, and what you do about what you think about will determine what you actually demonstrate in your life. Because we often say one thing and then we do another thing. So you'll discover that you actually operate under two sets of thoughts. we have the thoughts that I call the polite thoughts that say, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to make a lot of money. And then we have the other thoughts, which are the thoughts that we keep hidden inside, that actually say, oh God, I can never do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too tall. I'm too short. Those thoughts. And until you get those thoughts to merge and really get true with how you feel about it, everything that you do will be a failure. You will not be able to be successful until you get real with who you are. So this is going to be a conversation that encourages the audience to actually get real with what they think about things, how they feel about them, what they're planning to do about them, and determine what they're going to manifest. Now, we threw in action because I know we all been told that if you just think about it all the time, and if you just pray about it, it'll happen. But absolutely nothing happens unless you move into action. So action is incredibly important. So,
Well, actually, if you believe in the Bible says faith without works is dead. So you can believe all you want. You can have all the faith you want, but if you don't do something, nothing is going to happen. I mean, that's a general principle. It's a religious principle
Right.
from the Bible, but I think it's a general principle in life. I mean, you cannot just sit there and think. I remember some years ago, about maybe 15 years ago, I wanted to buy a dinner theater because I've been interested in the arts for some time. And I remember me and a friend of mine, we wanted to get this theater, so we said, we're going to get this theater, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go to the building that we want, we're going to put our hands on this building, and we're going to pray. And we did that. Wow. And we still don't have that building today. Because you can't just pray or have faith. That's not going to get it.
that's right. You mentioned the Bible. There are several stories, and if you look at all of the parables and all of the healings in the Bible, every one of them took some kind of action. There was a lady with the issue of blood. She had to take some action. She had to go and actually touch the hem of the garment. There was a guy that he said, get up, take up your bed and walk. There is some action required in everything. Well, why do you think we miss the action part?
Well, action. From my point of view, if you miss it, then you're not listening to your star player.
Okay.
And I normally say my star player is all the way inside. What I like to do with individuals, my tagline is, I am here to walk you into your best you.
Okay.
From behind the chair, allow people to pour it out. And we pick out, hey, you keep saying this, something's keeping you from getting all the way to the finish line. You might need to listen to yourself. You don't need to ask anyone else. You know, sometimes we value our own opinion.
Well, I think another problem that we have in terms of why we don't take action, why we don't do things, is fear. I think fear is probably the number one on my list anyway, of reasons why people don't do things. I was listening to a program today on NPR, and they were talking about people moving. They said why they studied this actually. They had these scientists who looked at this whole area. What they determined was that people move towards avoidance of pain, avoidance of things,
What is the pain?
opposed to moving towards pleasure. And what that meant is that if something is going on, we will try to avoid something more so than we'll try to go after what it is we really want. And they use an example of, let's say, a guy chasing a lion in the caveman days. Well, if this guy is going out to capture the lion, he's got two options. Either he's going to go forward to try to, say, get the food or the skin for clothing, whatever he's looking for, or he's going to try to avoid the lion because he doesn't want to be killed. And they said that what most people do is we are not going to go after the thing because we're afraid. We want to hold on to what we have opposed to going after what we want. And I think that's a good truth.
Okay, as Andre said there, we are.
You know I'm bashful.
Yes, you're right.
I don't believe that
he's
one.
not. You know, the thing about fear, though, I think sometimes people think fear means like we are afraid we're going to fail. But I have actually found that, and when I say this, I'm talking about me now, there's a fear of being successful, too. There's a fear of who are going to be my friends, who's going to talk to me, who's going to like me, what are they going to think about me.
Wow.
There is that fear, too, and sometimes that fear is even greater than the fear of failing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. There's definitely a fear of success, and a lot of times, when we have things and we know what we want, we have a good idea about what we want to do, who we want to be, but it's very difficult to go after that thing. Kanye West, he was talking about his friends on some interview, and not that I'm using Kanye West as the zen of knowledge.
He's a good
of
example.
course.
He's a good example.
But what he said is that when he became successful, he was making a comparison between before he became successful and after. He said that before he became successful and he was kind of a struggling artist, all of his friends were like, yeah, Kanye, go. But then when he did get the contract and he started making money, he became successful, all of a sudden his friends then started to bash him, started knock him down, like, you don't spend enough time with us, or you think you're better than us, and those kinds of things. And I think that, to your point, as far as a fear of success, a lot of people have a problem because of people around us. And we have a big problem with people around us, holding us back and keeping us from doing things that we want to do and that we should be doing.
Stephanie, let me
Go ahead.
Success is a relative term. My brother said when Kanye became successful, there's worldly success, and then there is what I would call real success. Real success to me is peace of mind, it's love, and unfortunately we live in a world in a culture where we are totally ignorant as to what really matters in life. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? We have so many so-called successful people who are extremely unhappy. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced in terms of tapping into our greatness is the first, one of the foremost principles that I have learned to live by is to accept 100% responsibility for your life. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care where you're going. The first lesson for me is to accept 100% responsibility. And that means to take responsibility for where you are, to take responsibility for what you have accomplished, to take responsibility for what you have failed to accomplish, to take responsibility for your relationships, to take responsibility for your health. It's not, you can't change the world. You can't change the world. I'll come back to that. But you can't change circumstances necessarily. You can't change the weather. You can't change the season. You can't change the wind. But you can change yourself. And if we make a commitment, all of us, to change ourselves, then we can make a difference. And you have to live by spiritual principles. You don't, the outer world is secondary. The inner world is primary. If we can get the inner world together, our outer world will fall in place. But we don't live by spiritual principles. Like my brother started off saying, spiritual principles are the key. It is everything. We must learn to live by spirit. And until we do that, and spirit, living by spirit is also the spirit of fear. It's only a spirit, and there's really nothing to fear but God. Other than all other fear is unreal. And there's a book called A Course in Miracles. And in that great book, it points out that there are really only two emotions:
love and fear.
Love and fear. And fear is not real. And in the presence of God and greatness and truth, fear can't even exist.
And that's that.
That's right. We've got a caller. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Miss Coleman. I can barely. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
You have a great show. You look great. You look great. You got a great smile. I had just a simple question, but then after listening to the brother talk about the responsibility, taking responsibility, I agree with that. I think that's a universal common thought. Now about the spirit, some people say, you can't see spirits, you can't see God, so how do you even play that as a factor unless you're just super religious? But that's not my question. My question is, what do you do about things that are meant to be? You know what I'm saying? Because you have some type of element that just says, hey, this is going to happen in your life. It may not be the direction that you want to go, but you know the direction you want to go, but for some reason, things happen in your life that it's just meant to be.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What do you refer to when you say, give us an example of things are just meant to be? What do you really mean? What are you really saying to us? What is the question?
I can give you an example, a personal example for me is I was homeless for a while. I didn't plan to be homeless. I wasn't taught to be homeless. It was a series of events that occurred. Okay? And when I look back on it, there was nothing that I could have done that was going to stop that. Okay? Now, the actual, though, blessing or good part of that was that the sudden jarring away from any attachments at all on the human plane was probably the best experience I have absolutely ever had, and don't regret that experience. As a matter of fact, you hear people say that, like you hear people with cancer who've overcome saying that cancer was the best thing that happened to them. That was the best thing that happened to me. Because
Are you talking about fate?
No, well, it's not fate. It's just
Being stripped totally
yeah,
and still being able to have joy.
I believe that you set up a certain type of vibration in your life, and as you set vibration up, energy doesn't die. Energy just can be transmuted, and if you're not careful and you don't stop or change your direction, certain things happen. There were certain lessons that I needed to learn, and certain lessons that when I say I needed to learn, I needed to know them firsthand. I learned those lessons then. So now I am at a point in life to where it is incredibly easy for me to listen to spirit. It is incredibly easy for me to because I know what it sounds like. I know what it feels like.
Good feeling, bad feeling.
Right. A lot of people don't know what listening to themselves or living with their inner spirit is like. They don't know what it feels like. They're still waiting for some voice,
Big
I guess,
bang.
to come out of a burning bush, or they want to wake up at night and see the Archangel Michael over their bed, whatever it is. But it's not like that at all.
And Mrs. Coleman, you went to talk about the truth of the spirit, wishing.
Right.
Children are just born with it naturally. They can only cry. That's all.
Right.
I think as we grow, we move away from that core and what keeps us sound.
We follow what Andre was talking about. We follow success, but it's not real success. We follow material things. We want money. We want cars. We see the commercials and we want the Maybachs, and we want to destroy the $360,000 car, even though we secretly say not to have done that. We want clothes. We want all of that. We want all that fame, but that's really not true success. Those are simply outer trappings, period.
Stephanie, you know, when the caller says, what do we do about things that just are meant to be, you know, one of the things we have to learn to do is acceptance.
Right.
Acceptance. For instance, when you look what happened with Hurricane Katrina, if we New Orleans, I don't think none of us were, but if you're living in New Orleans at that time and you have to deal with that disaster, you really begin to, in my mind, you can't control certain things
Right.
that happen to you.
Right.
But you can control how you respond to certain things.
to them.
And the key to life is always an event plus your response. That's all it is. It's an event plus your response.
Right.
And what I have noticed is that people who are unconscious, when I mean about I mean they are unaware of what's going on. They're unaware of their thought process.
Right.
They're unaware of their emotions. Their emotions take them over. Their mind tells them what to do. They don't. And people don't understand that you are control. You can control your thoughts. Your thoughts are things. You
That's
can
right.
stop your thoughts, and you have to stop
that.
it. You have to catch it. When a thought comes in your mind, and that thought is not consistent with who and what you want to be, you have to reject that thought
right.
and put another thought there. But when events in your life that you can't control, when that thing happens, unconscious people tend to become more unconscious, and conscious people tend to become deeply conscious. So when tragedy happens and a storm comes, and you can't get around storms. I heard a brother say that you are either in a problem, headed toward a problem, or just left one. Storms are coming. The issue is, how do we deal with storms? And we know from the scripture, one of the ways, and it doesn't matter which it is, we're talking about spiritual principles.
Right.
Here's a man who slept through a storm. And I'm talking about the man called Christ. He's just asleep. And his disciples are on the boat. The storm is coming. They panicking. Master, you don't love us. You don't care about it. If you loved us, you would be. And he sleep. One of the things we must learn to do is to sleep during a storm. When you have faith, you can sleep during hard
Rest
times.
easy,
That's
huh?
right. Grandma did it. Grandma would say
That's
during
right.
boy, sit down. It's going to be all right.
That's right.
And you think the whole world is ended. So part of it is simply how we respond to difficult times. So when the caller says, what do you do about things that are just meant to be, you have to learn to accept some things, and you have to learn to, what is that great prayer? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Change
the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Right.
That's what you
That's
have
it.
to do when
You also have to find gratitude in the midst of the storm. You have to find something to be grateful for. That is the order of the day. Find something to be grateful for. And as you are grateful, the more grateful you become, the more I have found that the universe or God or spirit opens up to you and gives you more things to be grateful for. You are wherever you are, and that's just it. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. Because wherever you find yourself in this midst of spirit. We're going to take a break right now. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how to shut those thoughts off. I think that is pretty cool, and how to redirect them, because I know we've all done that before. And I want you at home to stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message from the United Negro College Fund.
Sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's never come. Listen to the words of the song.
Dad, nobody wears ties to school.
Tie says you're serious, it'll make a good impression. And remember, you're there to study,
to learn, and to make something of myself. I got it.
Almost half of all UNCF students are the first in their family to go to college.
They have some great architecture classes.
Dad, I'm not really interested in architecture.
Well, keep your options open. And remember, no girls until your
Until my work is done.
And I'd make sure that I got my lunch.
Dad, you're not going. I am.
I know.
Listen, we better get going. Don't want to be late the first day in.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're the first to go, you're going for a lot of people. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Now the trees sang a song to me. He said the birds sang it to the breeze. Just in case
Greetings and welcome back to A Sip of Inspiration. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman. I'm your host. And joining me tonight again, Stanley Robinson, Andre M. Grant, and Nick Christmas. We left the conversation off with thoughts. And I asked the panel members if they would talk about experiences that they've had where they've actually had to shift or redirect their thoughts. There is no way that you will achieve this manner of success without having to deal with some thoughts that were not necessarily the pleasant, uplifting thoughts that we all say we have. So how did you do it? What were some of your techniques?
Well, I'll go right ahead.
Okay.
My last name is Christmas. It has always been. And I've either been teased or just loved to death. But it's something that I had to come to terms with and accept. I decided at one point I wanted to become a cosmetology teacher. And there was a week in cosmetology school where a teacher was out. I got to run her class for the week. Now, this is my face always. It looks this way. I had students that were from age 16 to about 50. And they see this young lady walking in their classroom and they say, well, what's about to happen to my money and my learning for the day? So they were putting on a hair show. And I was instructing some runway. Had my boots on, straight from Chicago, got them from the north side. They liked them. They said, Miss Christmas, show us how to walk. All right, I'm about to hit it, slip, boom, fell. I'm on the ground. My students are laughing at me. I said, what am I going to do? Oh my goodness, I get up and I tell them, you know what? Sometimes you just can't be afraid to look silly. You might slip and fall, but when you get up, you're going to finish the runway and hit back I had to do something to keep my class because they would have turned on me
Okay.
instantly.
How did you feel?
Well, on the inside when I was on my knee and I felt it and my students were saying, Miss Christmas, some was saying, Miss Christmas, some was saying. I was on the inside, okay, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to run out? Because I've ran before.
Okay.
And I've cried before.
Okay.
And I've hid
Okay.
like a hermit. But I got up and I decided, no, this is a test. I got to keep going or else I'll be on rerun.
Okay.
So I got to go to the next saga by picking it up, keeping my joy, finishing the runway. It was real, though, I tell you.
Okay.
And I didn't even have a license as a teacher yet.
What about you, Andre?
I think that how you call thoughts back is a daily battle. It's not something that you did in the past or you do in the past. It's something that you do every day. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we have to learn and know and understand, again, thoughts are things. And the mind is like a garden that can be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether it is cultivated or allowed to run wild, it will and it must produce. Your mind is not who you are. You're a tool. It's a tool to be used, and after it is used, it's to be put down until you pick it up to use it again. I'll give you an example. We think we are our minds.
Yes, we do.
When we learn, we allow, most of us actually have two people. There's two people in us. And often, you might see a homeless person walking around talking to himself. Most of us have conversations in
You
our
just have
mind.
two inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. Multiple.
Okay.
So you might see the homeless person talking to himself. However, most of us talk to ourselves on a daily basis. Every day we're having a conversation in our mind. But the conversation that we're having in our mind is not necessarily who we are. What we must learn to do is, one, recognize the conversation that is going on. And some of that conversation is based on your upbringing, based on what you were taught, based on your environment. It's on automatic. You don't even know where the thought came from. You ever been driving in your car and you realize that you have driven all the way home? You didn't notice a stoplight. You just was on automatic. Your thoughts was going like that. You didn't control them. There are times when thoughts come in your mind, you don't even know where the thought came from.
Right.
So what we have to do is learn to monitor your thoughts. And when a thought comes into your mind that is not consistent with who and what you want to be, you have to reject that thought. And now there are great books out there to help you can do it. One of those books is Joyce Meyer's book, The Battle of the Mind. She has another book called Thought by Thought Combat. There's a great book by a cat named Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. He asked the question in that book, can you turn on the off switch of your mind? Have you found the off switch? Can you shut it down? Because if you don't shut that mind down, that mind will control you. That mind will tell you that you're not strong, that you're not brave, that you should be afraid, that you can't do this and that. So when you hear these things talking to you, you have to, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. When that thought comes in your mind that says, I don't think I can do that. Another thought, first of all, you have to witness the thought, be the witness of the thought. And once you see that thought, you say, no, that's not the thought. I can do this. I can accomplish this. And I'll give you a quick example. My son, who's here with us tonight, he's about to go to Hampton University. We just did a trunk release party for him Sunday. Now, I talked to him about a week ago. It wasn't going well. I didn't think it was going to happen. And son, do you think we should call this off? Now, that was doubt in me talking, because I really wanted to say, call it off. My son said to me, no, Dad, absolutely not. We can't call this off. And when he said that, he convicted me. And I immediately said, you know, that thought that you had to call this off, that wasn't right. Get it out of your mind. Now, you got to go back into your mind and say, not only are we going to do this, we're going to do it well, it's going to be good, it's going to be powerful, and you move out on faith and belief. So you fight those thoughts until you get control of them. And after a while, the only thoughts that you have in your mind are beautiful, pleasant, wonderful, strong, fearless, invincible thoughts. But you have to work on it just like you work on working out.
And you have to even be careful about those thoughts, because sometimes the ego will masquerade and change its clothes and then lure you in. But let's hear from you, Stanley.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think good thoughts are great. For me, the way I deal with that is when I do have some thoughts, bad thoughts or negative types of thoughts, is I think that I do. So then the key word is do. So if I do, then I can get past the negative thoughts or the bad thoughts that's trying to hold me back. And what I mean by do is there's a motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar.
Right.
And Zig Ziglar was talking about motivation. A lot of people felt that motivation, you have to get motivated and then you can do something. So if I want to make something happen, I want to accomplish a goal, I have to get motivated to do that thing. And Zig Ziglar said we have it just backwards, because doing leads to motivation, not the other way around. So for example, if I want to run, say, exercise, so I want to run 3 miles, in order for me to run 3 miles, I can't sit in my living room and say, okay, I've got to get motivated. I got to get motivated to run. What he said is do. So if you get up and you go out, get dressed, and then put your shoes on, walk out the door, start jogging down the block, that's what's going to get you going. And there's a scientific reason, because we have these endorphins that pop off in our mind and things like that. And the thing that gets the endorphins popping is doing. So for me, if I'm going to have negative thoughts, and sometimes I do have negative thoughts, but if I do, then I just push through that and do the thing. So if something is happening that's trying to hold me back, I just keep going. If I do the next thing, that's going to give me motivation to do the next thing. I mean, I've worked on some projects that have been, like disastrous, but I kept going. And then as soon as I did the next thing, that gave me drive and the motivation and the determination to then go ahead and do the next thing, and that gave me the motivation to do the next thing, and so forth.
Hi, we've got Ernestine on the line. Hi, Ernestine. I do apologize for making you hold for so long.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to thank you, sister, for such a beautiful show. You're such a beautiful person with your pearls on, and I want to thank your beautiful guest. And I just want to say you're absolutely right, the panel is. I'm telling my daughter about those negative thoughts. Sometimes you have to reverse those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. If you think something negative, change it into a positive. And I want to just ask the brother in the middle, would the Bible say we are forever learning but never coming to the truth? Could he elaborate a little bit on that? Because a lot of times we are forever learning, but we never want to come to the truth of positive thoughts and positive things that we should be doing and getting completed in our lives. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think we are forever learning and never coming to the truth. I think that just speaks to how vast knowledge and information is. That this world that we live in is so enormous, it's so big, that we can stay here for 2,000 years and never really delve into the breadth scope of the information that it is out here to learn. So that doesn't mean you don't seek, though. That doesn't mean you don't seek. And one of the other things about controlling those thoughts, we have to learn to simply quiet our mind. There is such wisdom in peace. Peace be still. I mean, you have to learn to literally sit down, go in a quiet place, and be still. Quiet your mind. You can shut your mind off. You can make it stop. You can sit there. I mean, in Eastern religions, they're not just sitting there meditating because they don't have anything to do. There's quiet time. There's peace that you can find if you learn. There's another author that says 90% of the problem with most people is the inability to sit in a room by yourself. That's why we're going Twitter crazy, Facebook crazy, sleeping with our phones. We're sleeping with telephones,
this is a good point. That's one thing you had in your other book. That was the passage that I read at your book release party, where it talked about doing nothing. And that's why I really like that passage, and that's why what I told the folk on that particular occasion is that you do need to sometimes do nothing, which is to your point of meditation. Sometimes you have to do nothing. In other words, you have to sit down, you have to think, you have to take some quiet time.
I think that doing nothing should be too. I don't know that I wrote about that in the book, but I think everyone should have some meditation time twice a day, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, and then I think you should plan it throughout the day. I take these meditation moments where I take 2 minutes every hour and just get still, just quiet my mind. Now I call it catching up with me, because sometimes we move so fast in this world, doing, that we forget to just be still. We forget who we are, what we're going, and how we feel about it. And if you can sit still for 15 minutes, then all of those emotions that cropped up that day, all the hurt feelings, all the hurt emotions, all the things that someone said that you didn't, that hurt your feelings, all the things that you wish you had have said, you can come to terms with those things. You can pull them up, and then you can flush them out, because they have to be flushed out. Now, there is a game that to address the negative thoughts, shutting the thoughts off. You have the voice that says you can, and then you got the voice that says, oh, no, you can't. I don't know. What's wrong with you? What's on your mind? But if you sit back in your life, I do a game called, I call it the brag game, where you write down things that you've done in your life that were just over the top for you, successful for you. So when that voice starts telling you what you do, that you can't do it, stop it, for whatever reason, you tell that voice, no. You're talking to the person that did this, and this.
Yes.
And the one thing that I've found that's kind of magical about that is that it's things you've already done. You knew you were successful. You knew they were great. You knew people loved it. So it's not like you're telling yourself something that you can't believe. Because a lot of times, a lot of the speakers will say, just tell yourself you're rich, you're beautiful. If you don't believe that you're rich, you don't believe you're beautiful, that's not working. But you believe in what you've done before.
It's happening.
And you just tell the voice to just, I've done this, just shut up. I got stuff to do. And I can do it. And then like Stanley says, get busy doing it.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Do it.
But the voice that you mentioned, you got this voice saying, negative things. You can't do it. Then you got this other voice saying, oh, I can do it. Well, I don't know. I can't put a percentage on this. But I'm going to go out on a limb today on this program and say that the majority of the times that voice is not yours. That voice is other people around you.
Right.
And what you have to do is Les Brown, he talked about toxic relationships.
Woo!
So you got to get rid of these toxic relationships.
Yes, we do. We're going to take a call from George, who's been waiting far too long, and I really do appreciate
That's a hot topic.
We have gotten wound up, and we're going to move into one of my favorites, toxic relationships. Hi, George. How are you doing?
I'm doing good this evening. Your panel discussion is fantastic. One of the things I like for your panelists to consider. First, let me give you the hypothesis that old folks say, always listen to your first mind, they'll never lead you wrong. A lot of times what we come to know that first mind correlates with God speaking to you in that small voice. So not all thoughts are negative thoughts. See, even Jesus and his group of 12 had Thomas, and Thomas didn't always go along with everything that Jesus said. Wait a minute, Jesus. Maybe there's another way to look at things here, And even though we hold Jesus to be the master and the way shower, it was through thought and concentration. Now, when we say negative thoughts, that could be that still mind telling you that no, you don't need to go here, And then you come to find out the next day that there was some catastrophe that happened had you had been there or not. See, we never know what miracles occur because the miracle is that it did not occur. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not always negative. It's like if your husband had decided, no, I don't want to have a trunk party, and you had said, okay, that could have been that still small voice talking to him, because somebody might have said, well, I don't want to go to this trunk party. Why don't I just drop a check in the mail for first year's tuition or something like that? And then it said, or they could have got an attitude because you had a trunk party. They say, well, why is Attorney Grant having a trunk party for his kid when Attorney Grant can send 4 more kids on the couch? So you have to look at that it is not always negative. It is not always negative.
It's not.
It could be simply the still small voice telling you that this is not what you are supposed to be doing.
Now, there's one thing, though, in response to that I have found that works for me, and it's written in, there's a book called The Alchemist, and it's fiction, but it talks about or demonstrates spiritual principles. He talks about the power between what the mind thinks and what the heart thinks. And what you should do is pay attention to what your mind says and attention to what your heart says. And if there's any disconnect, then you've got some work to do. Don't do it until your heart and your mind can agree, because the truth generally will reside in the heart and not in the head. When you can get the two of them to agree, then you have the answer.
I heard the caller mention naysayers, those that might speak on things that you've put out there. You were looking for encouragement. You were looking for someone to be excited about you, but they said, oh, whatever. Sometimes you just got to put people on mute so you can stay in that inner core lane, you know.
How do you get rid of toxic relationships?
I make excuses to not be around those people.
Excuses?
Yes, I make excuses.
Lets them down easy.
Generally, excuses.
I like that. She lets them down.
Yeah,
you let them down easy.
Generally, excuses are a bad thing. The word excuse is just a bad word. It's like the F word. It's a bad word. However, in this instance, I make excuses. So, for example, if someone wants to hang out or wants me to show up for some event, I'm going to make an excuse. Well, I got something else to do. I'm not going to be able to make it. This is just not going to work for me. Whatever I need to do to get away from those people as far away as possible. My pet peeve in life is negativism. That's the worst for me, period, ever. Negative. I can't. Something happens in my mind. It's kind of like if you know how when matadors are in the ring and they have this bull and then you got this red cloth flag that you're waving in front of the bull. Bull sees that red. There's something in the brain of that bull, and it makes the bull just like go berserk. And that's how I am with negativism. So if somebody says something to me that's negative, I got a big problem with that.
Stephanie, with respect to toxic relationships and how do you get rid of them?
I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off because I know you guys want to talk about this idea of toxic relationships. But one other thing I wanted to mention that the caller talked about is the of fear. And one point that I wanted to make is fear is not always bad. Some fear is good because the program that I was mentioning to you guys earlier about the cavemen, they were going out, they were hunting, they were chasing lions, whatever they were doing. If that fear stopped that caveman from getting in front of the lion and being eaten and mauled to death, that's a good thing. The problem with fear is when it paralyzes you from doing things. So fear is not bad. And I think Andre alluded to this earlier. All events in nature are neutral.
Right.
It's neither good nor bad. It's your response to that. So same thing with fear. When it gets you to the point where it paralyzes you to move, then it's a problem. Otherwise, there's no problem with fear.
Can I get to this toxic relationship?
Do it.
Do it first. Wait a minute. We're going to hold you up a little bit. And we're going to take your Mina. She's been holding for a while.
Let me get to this toxic relationship.
Can you be quick? We're going to go to toxic relationships. Hi, Amina. How are you doing?
Hi. Good evening, Mrs. Coleman.
Hi.
I just wanted to make a quick comment and just let you know that I really do appreciate the show and, yourself as well as the guest speakers on your show. Just being able to provide a wealth of information to actually be able to utilize and, learn from and, use in life. I really enjoy it. And I think that you're doing a wonderful job. You look fabulous, and I just wanted to say that I'm really enjoying this show this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, toxic relationships. We're going there right now.
The first thing that I've learned about quote-unquote toxic relationships is that I have to make sure that I am not the toxic
you have to make sure you're not the toxic
honestly,
person.
Exactly. We always want to say, well, everybody else is toxic. No, Jesus didn't have toxic relationships because he didn't have toxicity within him. So your inner world produce your outer world. If there's inner peace inside of you, if there's peace of mind inside of you, if there's nothing but love inside of you, you cannot have a toxic relationship. It cannot exist for you. So the biggest, most important battle is always within. You don't have to worry about the world, and see can only get in the world through you. When you get peace here, when you got it, you won't have toxic relationship. Nobody can even upset you.
Right.
You can't even get in an argument.
And there's nothing wrong with saying to people, and I did this, and as a matter of fact, they asked me, what do you mean? I said, I don't stutter. You heard me, right? No, thank you for the invitation, but I won't be joining you. And they said, well, why not? I said, there's something else that I would rather do, and I'm going to do that. What do you mean? I said, I don't stutter. You don't understand me. It's just something else I'd much rather be doing. And it's the truth. That way I don't have to remember what I told you about your event. It's just the truth. Hi, we've got another caller. Hi, Tina. How are you doing?
Hi, my name is Tina. I have a 21-year-old son, and I'm a widow. I think he might need like a male model or maybe a mentor, and I wanted to find out if either of the two gentlemen are open to mentoring a 21-year-old. He said he's a college, by the way.
I would love to mentor kids. I'm a college professor. I teach at DeVry University. I teach accounting, business, and law classes. I work with young students all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm having a really tough time right now. The class that I'm working with, I see problems with the students in terms of their motivation, the level of motivation, their commitment to doing the work. I'd be more than happy to talk to them. What she can do is call she can give Keith her phone number.
Yeah, give my producer your telephone number and name, and he'll be back in touch with you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hi, we've got another caller. How are you doing?
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Hello, hi, how you doing?
Okay, you have a question for us?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I thank the Most High just for me being able to be in touch with this program. I was just flicking the channels, and it must have been meant. And, just this whole, chapter of, how should I say this? Just the whole conversation of you guys, talking about toxic relationships and things of that nature has pretty much enlightened me on a lot of things. I'm a single dad, and it's kind of rough sometimes trying to meet individuals of the opposite sex who kind of understand the spiritual basis as far as, my forms of thinking. I meet women all the time, and it's like the spirit, I can look right through them. It's just sort of hard sometimes to, meet a person of common belief. And watching this show gave me a confirmation that I am on the right path. It's only a matter of time before you meet an individual that thinks and feels like you. And that's probably why Jesus said, you cannot be unequally yoked. So, it really just gave me a confirmation that, just hang in there, bro. Everything's going to be fine. And I'd also like to ask that brother Andre Grant. He's a lawyer, if I'm right. I am in process of trying to seek out how to further my education. And I've always had the desire to try to, find out more information about becoming a lawyer.
Would you leave your name? Would you leave your name and your number with my producer, and he will pass the information on to us, and then somebody can get back to you?
Stephanie, can I add something to them? To the caller, this is a great opportunity right now, because it sounds to me like Spirit is calling him. And during difficult times, when it appears that stuff is not working out for you, this is the time to get still. God may be directly calling your name. You may not meet a woman right now. You need to get still. You need to pursue him, seek higher things. And when you take your attention off that woman will walk in your life so quick, it'll blow your mind. You attract her to it. When a man is ready, like everywhere.
I can definitely comment on that. I'm in the salon. I'm always around women, and relationships are the topic of discussion. I often, find myself
secrets over
I
there.
won't, the barbershop stays. I often find myself saying, when you present yourself in truth, that's what you receive.
Right.
Deceit. If you go in and you accept a relationship that you just don't really love, you open yourself for deceit. And you get in the pool of it.
Right.
I often say to people, well, you want him and you want him to have this, and that. Are you still a wolf in sheep's clothing? Are you really on the radar for the person that you want to be around? Have you done? Are you doing? Are you growing? And what you just said, when you're at that point where you're doing and you're in the works of what you're supposed to be doing, then you're on that radar for attraction. Otherwise, you wishing, wanting, but you're not even really that deserving. You're not even on the same plane.
I am not a relationship guru. I am married. I've been married for 24 years.
Oh, well, you might be.
He might be.
Well, this is my philosophy. My philosophy on relationships for any husband out there: just do what your wife tell you to do. You have no problem. You want to be married 25 years, 50 years? She's the done. All right.
Yes, dear.
Yes, right. But I did want to make a comment, and that is that if you, and Andre was making this point to the last caller, that you can be still, and if you want something to happen, also you can do things if you want something to happen. Now, while you're being still, my suggestion would be to read, and I think that the biggest problem I see with people in general, and particularly people in the black community, is that we do not read. And if you read, you will gain a wealth of knowledge. You will learn all kinds of information. You can read whatever you want. You can read the Bible if that's your choice. You can read books on relationships. You can read books on philosophy, sociology, books on Africa. Whatever you choose to read. But there are so many scholars. As a matter of fact, I don't see how you can be a scholar or an intellectual without
ingesting.
And one of the mistakes we make, particularly as educated people, we think that once we have a degree, we're educated.
Oh, when you're
a degree don't make you educated. You have to start reading and studying for the rest of your life.
Right.
And one more thing with respect to the caller, we have to learn also the true power of prayer. And prayer, I don't mean just getting on your knees saying, Lord, help me, and you don't do anything, you don't do the work. But there are some battles that have to be fought on your knees. It's plain and simple.
With
you can't.
Childlike faith.
Yeah. It's some battles that you have to fight on your knees. And the key to prayer is that once you ask God, once you ask the universe, faith is believing that what you asked for is going to happen. And once you've asked, then you get up. Keep asking.
You got to keep going about it.
Because
if you
believe, you're going about your business. You're going about your business.
You planted your mustard seed.
You got to believe. And believe is, I asked for it, he got me, I'm covered. Now what else should I be doing in my life?
Right.
Raising my son, studying, praying, reading, establishing my business. The woman will walk in your life.
That's right. I write, there's a section in my book, Be Sure You Dance, where I talk about imagination. I think that's another problem, is that we don't read, we don't watch quality television programs, so we have no imagination. So if you are going to create something, things are created twice, first in your mind and then in your world. You've got to exercise those imagination muscles. You've got to see yourself doing it. You've already asked for it, it's already been granted. Answer is yes, and you got to do something. First, see yourself doing it, and then get busy doing it. And we just want to keep asking.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? Imagination, I want to comment on imagination, but again, that was in terms of praying. One thing I wanted to say about prayer, and that is, for me, this was the big key for me in terms of prayer, is praying for wisdom. And
yes!
I think that
that's the only prayer. It's for wisdom.
Yeah, you have to be praying for wisdom. Yeah, if you're praying for wisdom and to know what things to do, what things to say, how to do it, where to go, that is the key. But anyway, to your point in terms of this idea about imagination, I think that again becomes a problem for us doing things because we don't have the imagination, and in it's called vision. Right. We don't have that vision. We don't have the ability to see something in our minds before it happened. For me, that's the thing that really gets me going. That's the thing that motivates me. I've done a lot of things. I've written plays, screenplays, books, things like that. The thing that makes me do that and helps me get that done is the excitement that I get from having this idea in my head, and then this thing comes to life. This thing actually happens. That is there's nothing like that.
That's the dream.
You know what else? We have to be able to recognize vision and inspiration when it comes. Sometimes we have an idea and we don't know it's a vision. You know, you just
call it an idea.
Yeah, the more you get in tune with spirit, the more you begin to recognize when certain things jump into you. And when it comes into you, it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. Wait a minute, that's no little thought.
Light bulb.
That was powerful. Now, if I can hold the vision, there's a way to hold the vision. You have to learn to hold the vision, and we have to learn to fantasize again. One of the biggest misperceptions we had growing up is when a teacher would tell you, stop daydreaming. No, daydream. Go deep into that vision.
Go deep into the vision.
You can't do it if you can't see it.
Imagine.
You can't do it if you can't see it.
Imagination. You
can't
got to see it.
Childlike faith.
And then that is going to fuel you over and keep you going.
The other thing is when we do have these ideas, we need to get a piece of paper and a pencil and write it down. I've got boxes.
I do too.
Of stuff. You know, ideas, thoughts, quote. I was driving in my car. You know, I've got 3 kids. When we take trips and we're going out of town, you know, we go down south a lot because I'm from Mississippi. Mm-hmm. So we're going down south. You know, we're driving 8 hours. You know, we're in the car. We're talking. You know, and if it's come up, my kids will say something. You know, I'm listening to them in the back seat. They're a little bit older now, so it's a little different. But you know, they say things, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to write that down.
Right.
And I'm writing down these things and these ideas.
I think that's a biblical principle.
Life as a trinity.
Habakkuk where he says, write it down and make it plain.
You think, you speak, you write.
And we should keep tablets right next to our bed. Keep them all around the house.
We are out of time. This is
really?
Beautiful, yes. To the listeners at home, you have learned by now, if nothing else, if you don't own at least one journal or one composition book where you can record your ideas, you need to go out right now and get one, because that's where it starts. Because every idea is powerful, whether it's a small whisper, whether it's really loud, or whether it's something that makes you say, wow, that was fantastic. Because that is the thing that you're meant to do in order to tap into your greatness. I want you guys to read a little more. I want you to make a promise to yourself that you will read at least one book a month about something you are interested in accomplishing, something that you're just interested in knowing about. And in the middle of those pages, your ideas will begin to come alive. Watch your feelings. Watch your thoughts. If the feelings and thoughts are not consistent with who you plan to be, not who you are now, but who you plan to be, to change those thoughts to something that is consistent with who you plan to be. So not only are you to dress for success with your clothing, you are to dress your minds and your feelings for success. This is Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor. You've listened to A Sip of Inspiration. I want you to go now and tap into your greatness and remember to dream big.
Sweetest lyrics that I heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be. Now the trees sang a song to me. He said the birds sang it to the breeze. Just in case I was feeling down and didn't really want to be around. He said the breeze sometimes come with rain, but nothing in life stays the same. Tomorrow's gonna bring a change. The message remains the same.